So, picture this. I'm standing there, my heart pounding like a drum solo, looking my mother straight in the eyes, and I tell her, "We're going tomorrow, Mom. I've sold your beach house." The look on her face was a mixture of shock, betrayal, and a touch of absolute horror, a look I knew I'd never forget. But what she didn't know, what no one knew until now, was the entire, convoluted, gut-wrenching story behind that single, brutal sentence. Was I a monster for doing what I did? Or was I just a son pushed to the absolute breaking point, forced to make an impossible decision to protect what was left of my shattered family? Tell me, honestly, after you hear everything, would you have done the same thing? Let's rewind, because this isn't just about a beach house. It's about years of manipulation, a lifetime of quiet suffering, and a desperate act of self-preservation. My name is Alex, and I'm 38. For as long as I can remember, my mother, Carol, has been difficult. Not difficult in the way a strong-willed person is difficult, but difficult in a way that slowly drains the life out of everyone around her. She was a master of passive aggression, a grand maestro of guilt trips, and a woman who truly believed the world revolved around her needs and desires. My father, bless his patient soul, bore the brunt of it for decades. He was a quiet, unassuming man, a high school history teacher who found joy in old books and gardening. Their marriage, to an outsider, might have looked stable. But beneath the surface, it was a constant, subtle war waged by my mother, with my father perpetually on the defensive. I have a younger sister, Sarah, who is 32. Sarah always took a different approach than I did. She'd either completely shut down or explode in frustration, neither of which ever really worked with our mother. I, on the other hand, became the fixer, the peacekeeper. It was an exhausting role, constantly mediating, constantly trying to soothe my mother's endless grievances, always trying to protect my father and sister from her emotional volleys. My childhood memories are often tinted with the anxiety of trying to predict my mother's mood swings, of walking on eggshells, of feeling like my own happiness was secondary to maintaining the fragile peace within our home. The beach house, oh, the beach house. It was my father's dream. He'd saved for years, meticulously planned every detail, and poured his heart and soul into renovating it himself. It was a small, cozy place on a quiet stretch of coast, a sanctuary from the everyday chaos, a place where he truly felt at peace. For him, it represented freedom, a place where he could escape my mother's constant demands, if only for a few weeks a year. For my mother, it was another status symbol, another thing to brag about, another means to control us. She'd invite friends and family, but always managed to make it about her generosity, about how lucky everyone was to experience her beautiful home. She never lifted a finger to maintain it, yet took all the credit. My father loved that house more than anything material. It was his haven, his legacy. He'd often tell me, his eyes distant and filled with a quiet longing. This house, son, it's where I can breathe. It's where I can just be. Then came the diagnosis. It was swift, brutal, and utterly devastating. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. They gave him mere months. The news shattered us all, but my mother, she reacted in a way that still chills me to the bone. Her immediate concern wasn't his pain, his fear, or our grief. It was about how this would affect her. What about my trips? Who will take care of the garden? This is just typical, isn't it? Ruining everything. I remember standing in the hospital corridor, the fluorescent lights humming, hearing her complain about how inconvenient his impending death was, and something inside me snapped. A quiet, cold rage began to simmer. In the final weeks, my father, frail and fading, held my hand tightly. "Alex," he whispered, his voice raspy, "promise me you'll look after Sarah. And don't let your mother sell the beach house. It's all I have left of me, really. Keep it in the family, please." I squeezed his hand back, tears blurring my vision. "I promise, Dad," I choked out. "I promise." He passed away a week later. The funeral was a blur of sorrow and forced pleasantries. My mother, of course, was the picture of the grieving widow, soaking up all the sympathy, shedding perfectly timed tears. But the moment the last mourner left, she was back to her old self, already planning how to redecorate the house, how to reorganize her life, utterly devoid of genuine grief for the man she had spent a lifetime subtly tormenting. The will reading came a few weeks later. My father, in his quiet wisdom, had made sure everything was perfectly clear. The main family home was left to my mother, as expected. His financial assets were split between myself and Sarah, with a small portion for my mother to ensure her comfortable living. And the beach house was left to myself and Sarah, jointly. He had put a clause in the will, stating that it could not be sold for at least 5 years after his death, and even then, only with a mutual agreement of both beneficiaries, myself and Sarah. This was his final, brilliant move to protect his sanctuary, knowing my mother would try to sell it off the moment she could for a quick profit. The moment the lawyer finished reading that part, my mother's face contorted into a mask of pure fury. "What? He left my house to them? That ungrateful man. I paid for half of that," she shrieked, completely forgetting that my father had built it with his own hands and money long before they were married. The ensuing argument was epic, a verbal brawl that lasted for hours. She accused us of conspiring against her, of robbing her, of disrespecting our father's memory. Sarah, for once, stood her ground. "It was Dad's wish, Mom. He wanted us to have it, to keep it as a family place." But my mother was beyond reason. She made our lives a living hell for the next few months, calling us constantly, demanding to know when we were going to do the right thing and sign the house over to her. She even tried to get the will contested, claiming my father was not of sound mind, a claim quickly dismissed by the lawyers. This was a woman who was willing to desecrate her dead husband's memory just to get her hands on something she felt entitled to, something that represented his quiet rebellion against her. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. My father's memory, Sarah's peace of mind, and my own sanity were all at stake, constantly under siege by my mother's relentless demands. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have caved to the pressure, or would you have fought back, even if it meant doing something drastic? The constant harassment continued for nearly a year. Every family gathering was a battleground. Every phone call a thinly veiled interrogation about her beach house. Sarah was a mess, often crying, overwhelmed by our mother's relentless emotional blackmail. I tried everything, reasoning, ignoring, pleading, but nothing worked. My mother was a force of nature when she wanted something, and she wanted that house. She'd say things like, "Your poor father would be so disappointed to see you two fighting over his legacy," completely twisting the narrative, making us out to be the villains. She even started telling relatives that Sarah and I were being greedy, refusing to let her have the house that was rightfully hers. It reached a point where Sarah started having panic attacks, and therapy wasn't helping much because the source of her stress was a constant presence in her life. One evening, after a particularly vicious phone call from our mother, I found Sarah curled up on her sofa, sobbing uncontrollably. "I can't take it anymore, Alex," she whispered, her voice raw. "She's destroying us. Dad wanted us to be happy, not fighting over a house. Maybe we should just give it to her. It's not worth this." My heart ached for her, seeing the toll our mother was taking. That was the moment I realized that keeping the house, my father's beautiful, peaceful sanctuary, was slowly but surely destroying the very family he had intended it to protect. It was a cruel irony. I went home that night, unable to sleep, pacing my apartment. I remembered my promise to my father, to protect Sarah, and to keep the house. But what if keeping the house was the very thing that was harming Sarah? What if my father's last wish, intended to protect us, was being weaponized by our mother? I started thinking about the will again, specifically the clause that said the house could not be sold for 5 years unless both beneficiaries agreed. And then, a different kind of plan began to form in my mind, a risky, desperate, but potentially liberating plan. I knew it would be controversial. I knew it would ignite an inferno. But I also knew it might be the only way to truly free us. I spent weeks meticulously researching, talking to lawyers, discreetly, of course, and solidifying my strategy. I needed Sarah's full, informed consent, and it had to be her decision, not just me pushing her into something. I sat her down and explained everything, every single angle, every possible consequence. I told her my idea, how it would shatter our relationship with Mom completely, but how it would also provide a final, undeniable end to the constant torment. Sarah listened, her eyes wide, then slowly, hesitantly, a glimmer of hope appeared. "You really think this could work?" she asked, her voice small. "It's the only way to cut her out completely, Sarah," I replied. "To give her what she thinks she wants, but on our terms, and for a purpose she'd never expect." It took a few days, but Sarah eventually agreed. The relief on her face was palpable, even if mixed with apprehension. So, together, We went to an estate agent, a discreet one who understood the delicate situation. We had the beach house appraised. It was worth a significant amount. Then, we put it on the market. Quietly, quickly. Within a few weeks, we had an offer, a good one, and we accepted. We handled all the paperwork, all the legalities, all the necessary disclosures, without a single word to our mother. It was excruciatingly difficult to keep such a massive secret, especially from someone who felt entitled to know every detail of our lives. But we managed. The closing date was set for the following week. And that's when I made my move. I waited until I knew our mother was in a particularly self-pitying mood, complaining about how unfair her life was. I called her and told her I had something important to discuss, face to face. She, ever dramatic, agreed, probably expecting me to finally capitulate and give her the house. The next day, I drove to her house. Sarah was there too, sitting silently, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her eyes fixed on me, a mixture of fear and resolve in their depths. My mother sat opposite me, preening slightly, a smug expression on her face. "Well, Alex? What is it? Have you finally come to your senses about the beach house?" she purred, clearly anticipating a victory. That's when I took a deep breath, looked her straight in the eye, and delivered the line. "We're going tomorrow, Mom. I've sold your beach house." The silence in the room was deafening. Her jaw dropped. Her eyes widened, losing all their smugness, replaced by raw, unadulterated shock. You what?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "You heard me," I said, my voice steady, though my heart was still hammering against my ribs. "Sarah and I agreed to sell it. The papers are signed. The money is in an escrow account. The new owners take possession tomorrow morning." She erupted. It was a cacophony of rage, betrayal, and accusations. She called me every name under the sun, accused me of stealing from her, of disrespecting my father's memory, of being a cruel, ungrateful son. She even threatened to call the police, to sue us, to disown us. All the usual tactics, but this time, they held no power. Because I had the trump card. "You're right, Mum," I said, cutting through her tirade, my voice suddenly calm and firm. "You're absolutely right. This house, it was tearing us apart. It was destroying Sarah, making her miserable, just like Dad said it would. But he didn't want you to have it. He left it to us to keep it safe. And since you couldn't respect that, since you couldn't let it go, we found another way to honor his wish." I paused, letting my words sink in. The beach house was appraised at $1.2 million. We sold it for $1.15 million. After commissions and fees, we netted just over $1 million. And guess what, Mom? Her eyes were still burning with fury, but now a flicker of something else, confusion, perhaps a sliver of greed, started to show through. "What?" she spat. "Half of that money, $500,000, has been set aside," I continued, "not for us, but for a foundation in Dad's name. A foundation dedicated to pancreatic cancer research. That was Dad's real dream, Mom. To help others avoid what he went through. Sarah and I are the trustees. We'll manage it, make sure his memory truly makes a difference. And the other half? That, Mom, is for us. For Sarah to finally be free from your constant demands, for me to ensure her peace, and for us to live our lives without your shadow constantly looming over us." The silence returned, but this time it was different. It was the silence of a bomb having just dropped. Her face went slack. The rage, momentarily, drained from her. All that was left was an empty stare, as if she couldn't process what I had just said. She had wanted the house for profit, for control, for status. I had sold it for peace, for legacy, for liberation. The revenge wasn't in taking something from her, but in using what she valued for a purpose she'd never comprehend, a purpose that truly honored my father. She never got a cent of the sale directly, nor did she ever get to brag about her beach house again. The foundation, the John Smith Pancreatic Cancer Research Fund, using a placeholder name here, became a real thing. Sarah and I poured our energy into it, working with doctors and scientists, truly making a difference. It brought us closer, healing the wounds our mother had inflicted. Our relationship with her, as expected, disintegrated completely. She tried one last attempt to get the money, claiming Dad would have wanted it for her, but the foundation's legal structure was ironclad, and her claims were baseless. We cut her off, changed our numbers, and slowly, painstakingly, rebuilt our lives without her toxic presence. It was hard, incredibly hard, to sever that tie, but the peace that followed was immeasurable. Sarah flourished, pursuing her own dreams, free from the constant anxiety. I finally felt like I could breathe, truly breathe, for the first time in my adult life. The beach house, my father's sanctuary, was gone, but his true legacy lived on, not as bricks and mortar, but as hope and help for others, something far more profound. Looking back, was it a harsh act? Absolutely. Did it cause immense pain? Without a doubt. But it was also an act of self-preservation, a desperate measure to protect my sister and honor my father's memory in a way that truly mattered, rather than letting his wishes be twisted by a woman consumed by selfishness. We lost a material possession, but we gained our freedom, our peace of mind, and a sense of purpose that transcended any argument over property. So, that's my story. I've laid it all out there. Like this video if you were on my side, if you think I did the right thing to protect my family. Subscribe for more stories like this, and please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'll be reading them. I'll see you all in the next story.